The next question says, Mike, or it's from Mike. He says, how to create a silo structure for local service, how to sort out the different service keywords with different city names. Can you please show a visual example of it? Thanks a lot. No, I can't. And the reason why is because we just went over this in the mastermind. Actually, for the last 2 mastermind webinars, the first a month ago, essentially, I did basically a conceptual overview of how I struck, because we had a mastermind member ask this very specifically. If you're in the mastermind, you can go watch the previous 2 webinars that we've had, the most recent 2 webinars that we've had, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not in the mastermind, it's first of all, it takes a while to explain how to structure all that stuff right. There are some interesting things that happen when you're trying to, especially for a service area business, which is I think what you're talking about, which is where, like, let's say a plumber, right? So a plumber that might cover, an entire county, and the county, let's just for simplicity's sake, say has 4 different, town names or city names within the county itself, and they cover all 4. What happens if you try to create a silo structure with services and then try to optimize each service for each separate location, then you end up having a lot of times URL conflicts because of you're trying to duplicate the same areas within different topical silos, if that makes sense, or service silos, if you'd rather look at it that way. And it can be, especially if you're using a complex silo structure, which is typically how you would do it for a service area business with multiple services, right? So the problem, it creates a problem. And I know I fought that for years. I would have to map sites out literally. That's why I talked about earlier, creating a visual site map of how you plan to build a site, because it would take me a while to plan before I would ever start building, to try to figure out how to reconcile potential issues or prevent issues from occurring when you have complex silo structure where you're trying to combine both topical plus location-based silos. Very difficult to do without having a real solid plan. And what happens is if you end up changing your plan at any time, it can create a real mess out of the site in the silo structures. So I kind of developed a way how to get away around that. And again, I can't really go into detail here because it's a big can of worms to open up, number one. And you also would probably need some visual aids, to actually see what I'm talking about. But what I've developed and kind of did this out of necessity for a specific project was to create topical silos, but then use tags. Tags is your actual way to create location relevancy for each one of the topical silos or services in this case. And it's very unique way to do it. It works very, very well. And combined with what we teach with the Google sites and the RYS stacks, for example, you can do some really incredible things. But again, you'd have to see it, right? In the mastermind, we talked about it very specifically. And just last week on the last mastermind webinar, I actually showed some examples. I'm kind of building that out on my newest website that is for my own business, and I'm sharing that with our members. So unfortunately, I can't show you here, but just know that what I recommend is trying to keep to a simple silo structure if possible, which is just pages, top level categories, and posts. And then, because complex silo structures are, just like the name says, complex, and they can become a nightmare to deal with over time, unless you have a real solid strategy up front. And so I recommend sticking with a simple silo structure, and then start thinking about how you can use tags and categories specifically to create the location relevancy with your posts in each topical or service silo, if that makes sense, right? Or come join the mastermind, and then I can show you much more in depth with videos and visual aids.
Yeah, I was going to say too, go head over to YouTube and just search for Semantic Mastery Silo, and you'll get a lot of awesome videos with Bradley's drawings and some, excuse me, some good explanations though too on some of these areas.
Yeah.